Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. This is Scott Groves on the Edge podcast. I'm interviewing my new friend, Marcel Clarke, and Marcel does a lot of stuff, which we're going to get into, but I want to start by just reading the first paragraph of his bio because he grew up on the mean streets of Philly. And the first paragraph of your bio on your website says, "From being schooled in the streets of Philly to becoming a serial entrepreneur, my story is far from a typical journey to success. At 15 years old, I walked in on my father and my grandmother refining the details of my life insurance policy as they were both certain I wasn't going to make it past the age of 21 and they were looking to cash in. The realization of their actions stunned me into silence, unable to reconcile why my family members were effectively signing off my life before it had even begun. And I'm sure I've traumatized my children in one way or another, but I ain't taking life insurance policies out on them because I think they're going to die in gang violence or something." So can you talk a little bit about your origin story, Marcel? Were you just in that bad of a neighborhood, or were you a messed up kid or whatnot? Because I know you're really successful now, but I don't think it started that way.
Yeah, that's interesting because when I go back and I start to think about those times, honestly, when my grandma died, she was a totally different character anyway, right? She died in 99, walking up the steps from a bus that just dropped her off from the casino. She was just like on another level with it anyway. And my dad, he was a good guy, but I think that, again, in his brain, they thought that they were basically discussing what my future would look like, which, again, to them clearly felt like it was detrimental. It's an interesting story because my life is full of a lot of peaks and valleys. So when I actually was born in a really, really nice middle-class neighborhood out in Landover, Maryland. So Landover was really nice, was raised really well. But if I bunny hop to that moment in time, yes, I had just been getting in a lot of trouble. Entrepreneurs, now that I can look back on it, people can't really tell us anything. We adjust and we learn and we focus on the things we love, but we really are like built to follow our own path, do our own thing. I was just like that as a teenager. I didn't listen. I pretty much got kicked out of every school I was in. Either I was suspended in the principal's office or like all the way through school, man. Just every grade from elementary, middle school, high school, all the principals knew me. I was constantly just on my way out and suspended for weeks. It's just because I just really was never good at following direction. So for that moment in time, I think both of them felt like they were just fed up with me. And in retrospect, as bad as it was, I do actually understand now that I'm a parent, right? If your kid is just out there on the streets and just doing whatever they want to do, then you feel like you have no control. And if you feel like you have no control, I feel like for those two, they felt, okay, this is inevitable for this kid. But in retrospect, it was motivating because it was one of the first times where I had to understand and feel like a level of disappointment in others. I was so disappointed. That's how they felt my life was going to turn out. That in my soul, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll show you. So I got.
What was it? Because like you grew up in a middle class family. Your grandma was around. Your dad was around. Like, how were they losing you to the streets? Was it gangs? Was it drugs? Were you just like a mischief maker? Like, I can't even imagine knowing where you're at today and then what you just said, growing up in a really nice area. What was going on that was drawing you to that lifestyle that they thought you were going to end up dead in the next couple of years?
So what transpired was my dad was an entrepreneur when I was a kid. I was raised in Maryland for a part of my life, but then we moved to Philly because he owned a fish market. It burnt down and he was like, enough with that business. Moved to Philly. He wanted to start his own. He bought he created what we call corner stores. So in Philly, they're just like 7-Elevens, but they're literally on the corner and they're known for like cooking real food too. So Philadelphia cheesesteaks were born out of those types of locations. So he started to do that, became very successful, maybe built and owned like 5 or 6 of them. And that's when I was always on the street. So my parents weren't helicopter parents. Right, my mom and my dad would pretty much make sure you get home before dark. It was cool when I made it home, but they would make sure you get home before dark. So that just gave me an opportunity to explore the streets. So if I was at the YMCA or at the basketball court, in the urban areas, these locations it can get hectic. People even back then, a fight would break out on the basketball court, somebody get stabbed easily. I was starting to become really aware of this street life and understanding it. And as a kid, again, that's what makes things beautiful, because I was fearless anyway. I never felt like I was like in danger. So, but my mom and my dad divorced, and then my mom and I had to move back to Maryland. And my mom is a teacher, or she was a teacher. And again, even to this day, teachers don't really make any money. So Here we go from the brownstones in Philly and cooks and maids and all of these things to them divorcing, and we end up in the hood. All right. I'm still okay though, because again, I was on the streets of Philly, so the hood really wasn't a big deal. It was just bad. It was mouse traps everywhere, turn on the lights, there's roaches everywhere. So it was a really horrible experience for maybe 2 years. Then my dad comes back. And when my dad comes back, he was a veteran. He pulls us out of the hood again, and we end up in the suburbs. Remember, I started with a whole bunch of fluctuation in my life.
Yeah.
So we get to the burbs, and when we back into the burbs, it's cool for a while, and then I'm in my teenage years at this time. Fate is everything, because here I am. It's one day. My mom used to try to give me everything, but one day she decided to say no. And it was this trip. Everybody in the neighborhood was going to this place called King's Dominion. She told me she wasn't going to pay for it. I ended up staying home. That day, I meet this guy in our neighborhood named Kingsley. This guy he's Jamaican, he's cool. And I'm like, and then we just start chopping it up. He's like, you want to roll with me? I'm like, yeah, I want to roll with you. We end up going up to it. Even though we're in the middle class neighborhood, maybe a mile away, it's a hood. We go up there, long story short, he's out there selling weed. I'm out again. Rewind. My dad smoked weed my whole life, right? He is back when it was illegal. So my pops was always smoking weed when I was around. He was just always smoking. So I wasn't really concerned when I saw him pushing the weight, and I was just kind of, that's interesting. I sat there and hung out with him for the whole day. By the end of that day, I had $400 in my pocket because he just wanted me to look out for him. All my boys come back from King's Dominion, and they all la la la. I pull out my bankroll, they like, oh. That's when it started, man. So it was about four of us. We're in the middle class neighborhood, had decided that we was going to basically just get into something. Next thing you know, it just started evolving. Maybe 5 years later, we're kingpins because we decided we're not going to just do weed. We want to sell cocaine. And it just started to grow. And I always tell people this part that, like, it made me respect the fact that there are a lot of people and kids out there on these streets that actually can be CEOs. They could be CEOs. Like, the mentality that it takes to do the negative things that you could do on the street, those same skill sets can definitely be applied to the real world, clearly. And for us, as we evolved, it was starting to get hectic because I was losing friends to jail, murder. One of my friends died of drug abuse. This is in my circle.
How old were you at this point?
I'm probably around between 19, 20.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I got to that point with my grandma and my dad. So I was like, this isn't going to end well. I was like, this is not going to end well. If I keep this up, there is no way this ends well. And thank God I got a really great mom, man, because my mom, again, remember I said she's an educator. She always pressed me to go to school. So here I am, I'm living a dual life. So I'm sitting there backpacking at the school in the daytime, drug kingpin at nighttime, right? So I'm living a parallel life for a good 4 to 6 years. And when it came to it, man, I started looking at my life, I was like, nah, this is not the way my story's going to end. You're reading my book. It was a point in my life where I had been incarcerated a couple times, never did prison, but just small stuff, constantly getting caught on the streets, lawyers getting me out because I had money. So I was always getting away with stuff. And it's just one time I'm sitting in jail. My daughter's born. She's just born, a newborn, and I missed it. Like, I'm locked up sitting in jail. She's in jail. I'm in jail. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, I just remember this crying. I was just like, this is not the life that I want to have. I was just like, I can't do this. And at that moment, I was like, it's over. I'm going to find a way out. I'm going to see a path. I'm going to get out of this. And if God let me out, I'm going to do the right thing. And again, when I was living that dual lifestyle, I just started figuring out what my game plan was to make an exit. And I just remember, when it was time for me to graduate, I was in undergrad. I graduated from school, and I was like, I did a couple of things just to burn that world down. I was just like, because the thing about that world is if you try to stay connected to those people, it'll always pull you back.
Yeah, easy money.
It's easy money, and you want to make sure that you're totally disconnected from it. And I remember when I first graduated and I was like, okay, man, this is my new life. And I started my new job. And I remember receiving my first paycheck, and it was $800 for 2 weeks worth of work. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, what the hell am I going to do with this? I was thinking that in 2 minutes, right? I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with $800 every 2 weeks? Are y'all crazy? But it got better. But yeah, I mean, that world definitely groomed me to be able to understand, be a lot more conceptual, because when you're on the streets, you have to be really in tune with the environment, because anything could go down at any time. And you definitely also have to be really aware of people and personalities. You need to understand who you really want to be affiliated with and who you really don't want to be affiliated with. All these skills come in handy now in my new life. It's not new anymore. That was like 30 years ago. But yeah, it's like those things I was able to put all in the same basket and use them in the right way versus using them in a negative way. And it's been incredibly helpful for me. It's an incredible skill to have because, again, I can see the BS coming from a mile away. You just not going to be able to get over on me. And I just really have a real keen sense on personalities. And I don't need to learn my lesson. I could tell if I'm around you for a reasonable amount of time if you my type of person or not. And it's cool because you gonna always meet people that you don't really affiliate with, but it helps make sure that you can move in the right direction, because that's the other thing as a CEO, like my network matters. So everybody around me, one thing that will always be important to me is I'm always surrounding myself with people that are way smarter than I am. So in my real estate deals, I have the best attorneys, I have the best developers, I have the best contractors, I have the best everything, but they definitely know more than I do. I'm really good at delegating. That's what I figured out back in the day, right? I'm really good with people, I'm really good at delegating, I'm really good with organizing things, I'm really good with that. I'm really good at paying for shit. Like, I'm always the damn bank, right?
Yeah.
I'm always the bank, but again, I've always been blessed in that category. But my circle, my network, those are people that, again, I'm always learning from. And I think that's been the key to my success. Like, no matter how successful I've been, I've never had that kind of like attitude where, yeah, I'm the man, I've arrived now. I've always been humbled.
So in your book, Hiding in Plain View, which I highly recommend to people, you talk about this rock bottom moment in being in jail, first babies being born. I know you've had additional kids since then. Can you talk about that moment for a minute? Because I know since you have other kids that you were there in the birth, it's just like this magical moment where it's holy shit, dude, I created a life with this stuff out of my balls. It's wild. And so can you talk a little bit about that moment? Was it like you got out of jail and it was cold turkey, you stopped the next day, or was there more moments to come that kind of changed the trajectory? Or tell me about that moment in jail for a moment.
Yeah, no, when, I hadn't been able to see her at that moment. I was just told, my mom told me because she came to visit me and she was like, Marche was born. And I felt really bad again. I was at the bottom. That was really one of my bottoms. When I first saw her, she was just motivating me. I was like, okay, now it's game time. This person is dependent on me. And again, raised in a solid household, like everybody, all my aunts, uncles, everybody, I've always been surrounded by beautiful families. So the moment she was born, I already knew that, okay, now it's on. I can't let her down. And that wasn't the end though, because she was born, and then maybe I was still hustling for maybe 2 or 3 years, because I remember my wall was incarcerated again. She came to see me, and she's a little baby, and she starts tapping on the glass because I'm on the other side of the glass. She's trying to get to me. And I'm like, this is it. Because it was so profound, because it said, Marcel, your own kid can't even get to you, and she's like on the glass and doesn't even understand that you're locked down. And I'm like, you're too smart for this. I just said to myself, I said, you're too smart for this. You're too smart to be in this situation, and you're too smart to be living your life on some 3 trays a day in a 5x9 surrounded by a bunch of criminals. I'm like, this is not what you do. So it was always there, but that's why I'm always going to be a proponent of making choices and good choices. Like, when you're me, I don't really have a good tolerance for people that don't take responsibility for their choices, because I think that's the starting point, right? If I do shit, I didn't say I did it, right? If I make a mistake, when you're the boss, People don't clap for you when you win most of the time. They just go, okay, you got it right. But when you're wrong, you hear everybody let you know that you're wrong. So you have to, when you really look at life, you are responsible for your choices that you make. And if you make the right choices, they can guide you in the right direction. But you can't make bad choices and then don't take responsibility for them. That makes no sense. So that's like the core of me. Like, I'm cool with making mistakes. I'm just not cool with people that don't take responsibility for their mistakes, because I take responsibility for my shit. If I make a mistake, I make a mistake. It's cool. My mentality is I'm not going to do that again. I'm like, I'm not doing that shit again. And I'm going to basically learn from whatever that mistake was. I'm going to dissect it, and then I'm going to move on in another direction. I'm always failing forward anyway. Like when I bought my first franchise coming out of the 9-to-5 world, I had an understanding of business because that was my degree, but I never owned a business. So
You did. It just wasn't a legal business.
I owned an illegal business, but I had never owned anything legit. What? Taxes, tax IDs. What is this? But it's okay because I grew that business to about 1 or 2 million in sales, and I sold it for a ridiculous price and made money. But I failed forward in that business. I was learning all kinds of nonsense that I wasn't aware of when I owned that business. So I really do understand that you're going to tumble, you're going to fall, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to walk through coals of hell if you're an entrepreneur. But on the other side of this, it's beautiful. Nothing measures up to success. Like when you really have success at something that you love to do, I can't even describe the euphoria that's around my every day. Like every day, I'm only involved with things that I want to do. I don't wake up in the morning like, oh, I got to deal with my boss. I am the boss. My whole plate I just did a deal with Marco's Pizza. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them.
Yeah.
We're going to do a 3-unit deal down here in Virginia. I wake up loving that. I own this commercial cleaning company I'm in. I love this. I'm a real estate developer. I was just literally looking at one of the buildings that we're building, and I was so excited because they're finally putting the siding on the building. I know it's weird, but yeah, I'm elated. Like I'm looking at my kid being born because they're putting up the gray siding, my name going to be on the building. Like it pumps you up because I have total control over my life. Like nobody else controls this but me. And there's a certain level of just gratification that comes along with that. But yeah, like I said, like what I started this with, I just don't have a lot of tolerance for people that don't really look at their circumstances and go, how did I get here? Because I know that's what I did when I was sitting there behind that glass, right? I was like, why the fuck am I here? Like, why? I got great mom. I live in a decent neighborhood. I got education under my belt now. Like, why am I still in this repetitive circle of negativity? And why am I locked up around a bunch of criminals? I had to literally sit down and go, because this is what you did, Marcel. I had to go, yeah, your ass served so, and now they went and snitched on you, and you're in this position because you were selling drugs, right? I had to really go, this is why I'm here. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't be mad if you find yourself in that same repetitive situation for years and years and years, dealing with the same people that's holding you back. If you don't change something, you can't expect to grow and evolve. It makes no sense.
You talk about this in your book about this idea, like this dichotomy of you come in for an interview, right? If I knew you 30 years ago and I'm like, here's this guy, super motivated, super articulate, business degree. This is the guy I want to hire. Oh, and by the way, he's got 4 incarcerations for dealing drugs. Who was it early on in your life that gave you that shot to be like, I'll overlook the left hand over here because I see some promise in this young man on the right hand over here. But it's like, that couldn't have been easy to get a shot back then with the criminal record you had, right? Like, what were the first couple steps to becoming independent, getting a real job, getting your life straight?
Wow, that's a great question, actually, Scott. And I know people say that, but honestly, nobody's ever asked me that. And you just made me think about my guy. His name was Stephen Leacock. And I hope Steve sees this one day, because Steve was a general manager at a commercial cleaning company, and I own a commercial cleaning company now. And he literally gave me a shot and was like, look, Marcel, just don't get any complaints. And I know janitorial, it was a janitorial position, but it was the first job I actually had where I was like, okay, I'm going to do a good job here. And it humbled me to an extent that always sticks with me today, because people in our society always look at levels, and janitors to people are at the bottom of the totem pole. And I noticed how certain people treated me and how others treated me. And I was like, no matter what happens to me in life, I'm never going to treat people like any other I'm always going to meet people on their level. I don't care who you are. If you in here, you trying to feed your family, you trying to make money, man, you could be my friend. So like it taught me that, it humbled me because remember, I was coming from kingpin status. I could get into any club I wanted. I was driving Mercedes, BMWs, name the car. I had it. I was wearing ridiculous jewelry, walking around with thousands and thousands in my pocket. And here I am now with a vacuum on my back. That's what it is. God, that's what God does, though, man. He'll humble you up to let you know, like, it's gonna be bigger things down the road for you. But how do you handle this situation now? And I know for a fact that's one reason why my personality is like it is now. Like, I'm totally always down for the underdog. Rocky was my movie when I was a kid. Like I could watch that movie 1,000 times. And anytime I come across it, I watch it because I've always understood. Like people not gonna always see your talent. They're not gonna believe your dreams, and they're not gonna understand what you're trying to do. That's on you. It gotta be inside. If it's inside you, you can make it happen. But if you're worried about what everybody else thinks, I love my Aunt Naomi to death, man. And when I graduated from college and I was in a good space and I was talking about starting my own business, she was like, Marcel, what'd you get all those degrees for if you're gonna try to start your own business? And she's one of my favorite people on the planet. But she just didn't understand what I was trying to do because it was my thoughts, my dreams, what I wanted to do. And that's what I try to mentor these kids about. Follow whatever that is poking at you on an ongoing basis. Whatever you do, what you love, if you love it, please try your best to do it. Try, even if it's going to be your side hustle, just try because that's your God-given talent. That's your angels telling you, listen, this is your skill set. Utilize it because I really believe one pillar of wealth is if you're really doing something that you care about and you love, you're going to have passion for it. And when you have passion for something, you'll always go above and beyond because you love it. Like, it's not work. It's like, this is what you want to do. My daughter, Jordan, is incredibly talented. And I'm like, but she's always loved to draw when she was a kid. And her mom's a physician, and you see me. So we looking at, she told me one day, I want to own a tattoo. She said, I want to do tattoos, Dad. I was like, you can own a shop and it could be your side hustle. I said, I got you on that. Like, that could be your side hustle getting through college. Like, we'll buy you a spot. We're going to start tatting people up. And you can't get too many tats now. I'll get you do one on your stomach somewhere where nobody can see it. But I'm like, if you want to own a shop, I got you. And that's my point. Like, my kids, I try to filter them towards the things that they love to do because I know what that can produce. Too many people, especially when I was in that 9-to-5 world, oh man, they were miserable.
Yeah.
They hated their boss. They hated coming to work. It was just a bad environment when I look back on it. And that's the reason why I didn't last in that 9-to-5 world, right? Because I could never get to work on time. My boss used to talk to me and I'd just be like, why am I even listening to this person? I just could not acclimate to that box. So it was like that. And again, I know who I am. But yeah, I try to tell people that all the time. Please, man, just think about this thing called life. You know how fast it goes, Scott. It goes too fast. At 52, I can remember a lot back then. And knowing that I have less in front of me than I have behind me, yeah, man, I'm motivated every day.
I feel like I got out of the Army yesterday, and that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It goes fast. But I want to ask you about balancing those two things, right? Because you talked about passion. So I'm guessing in your 20s, young man who had previously had some experience making a lot of money, you weren't passionate about having that vacuum on your back, going into work at night to clean for $12 an hour or whatever. So how did you balance, I got to show up and do a good job at this job that isn't my passion while I'm staying focused on the legal side hustle to build my empire? Can you remember back to your 20s? Because I think the problem is a lot of people won't take that $15 an hour job because they see some shit on Instagram and they're like, I'm going to be famous and follow my passion right now. It's like, no. You got to pay the bills over here with this job that might not totally light you up while you're taking your extra hours. Don't be watching Desperate Housewives. Spend that time building your passion. So how did you balance that?
Yeah, first thing, it was interesting because having that job made me feel safe though, right? I'm no longer looking over my shoulder. It was like this safety net. Like I was so exhausted from all the hectic nonsense that I used to deal with all my life. It felt really liberating just to be normal. That's the first thing. If you ask me how I balanced it, it was because this is why I always try to tell people that everybody's not built to be an entrepreneur. They're just not. And right now, entrepreneurship is this in vogue thing, and like you see it all over social media, IG. But people. This is just like rocket science and everything else. It's you need to have a serious skill set to be an entrepreneur, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're wearing multiple hats. One day you're the general manager, next day you're in employee relations, customer relations, marketing. You're everything at one time. So don't think it's easy. But to me, again, being raised in that environment with my dad and watching him when I was a kid and all of the success he had as a minority owner, and I didn't even look at it that way. But as I started to grow and I started to understand what he had done, that foundation that he had laid and his risk taking, how impressive that was, in my mind, I always knew I was going to own something. It's just that I was caught between my mom and my dad, because my mom was like, you're going to go to school and you're going to get an education. No.
Hey there, Scott Groves with a quick interruption to the podcast. Sorry about that, but I just want to take a quick minute to announce our sponsors here for the podcast, and that sponsor is me, Scott Groves. It's actually the revenue that we generate through doing mortgages here at Neo Home Loans, and the money that we generate from the coaching program that I run, Consolidated Coaching for Loan Officers, coaching by loan officers for loan officers, that helps support this podcast. I really started this in 2021 as a passion project during COVID, and we're excited to bring you a new episode every week, but this only happens if I'm making money in my real full-time job. So please, if you or somebody you know is looking to buy, sell, or refinance a house, our team is licensed in almost every state in the country. And if you know a loan officer who's looking for sales coaching, personal development coaching, lead generation coaching, please get in touch with us, Scott at the Scott Groves team. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to support our other endeavors, which is mortgage financing and loan officer coaching, which allows this podcast to exist. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Work 45 years of this job, have a pension, be a teacher like me.
And that's her mentality, right? And I have a problem with that, but that's exactly what her mentality was. That's exactly why when I graduated, I went to get a 9-to-5, because I'm sitting there thinking that this is what you're supposed to do. But somewhere in me, it was planted in me to be more. And I can tell you this subconsciously, when I was working these little jobs and even in college, I always was really, really good at saving money. So even when once I dug myself out of that hole, having 30, 40 grand of legitimate money in my bank account, that was the norm. So I was already building the egg to purchase something so I could have an escape plan. But yeah, I knew in my mind what I was going to do. So to me, when I was in that environment with the VAC, and all the other real crazy jobs I had, it was me just trying to take in the environment, understanding what's going on around me, and figuring out what my next move was going to be. So you definitely have to be dual-minded. Like, you can't, I agree with you. We're in this environment where everybody feels like it's going to be instantaneous, but that's not realistic. That's a lot of editing people on the biggest shows. They hyping it up, but that's not the way this actually works. You have to have a foundation to do anything. You have to understand and be a master of your craft before you can actually get paid for it. For me, it was always about the money. Again, that's like I opened up. Like I've always been the bank, so I knew that financing for me was going to be the most important thing. Because, like you said, I knew I had a criminal record. I knew I didn't have any felonies, but I knew I had been locked up 1,000 times. And if somebody looking at that record, it's going to be a wrap. I was like, nobody's hiring me with that. So,
JP Morgan ain't hiring you to run investment banking if you've got a rap sheet.
Absolutely not. And even when I graduated from college and I started getting jobs, I was in Baltimore, Maryland, and I would have to get jobs with small little agencies just to try to build up my experience, but I had to move under the radar so they wouldn't want to check my background. And it actually worked out. But yeah, like, I knew for a fact that wasn't going to be the environment I was in. So the whole point of the conversation with your question is, yes, you have to have a plan, though. Right? You have to have a plan. You're not going to just become instantly successful. Those are the outliers. There are some people that jump on the internet and go viral. That's true. But they're not the norm. They're in the small percentiles, like athletes and NBA players. So we're talking about playing the long game here. And if you're playing the long game, then you have to go into any situation with a plan. What are you trying to achieve? Where do you want to see yourself? These questions are legit.
Yeah. I think people will see 52-year-old version of Marcel and be like, oh, of course it's easy for him because he had $500,000 in the bank to do this fucking real estate development, blah, 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 blah. But what they're not seeing is the 20 years of living below your means, saving the money, being diligent. So when opportunity did present itself, okay, yeah, now I can go into a $500,000 project because I've kept my expenses low. And I think in the modern environment of social media and keeping up with the Joneses, which has already been there, always been there, I think it's like that on steroids now. We're like, I feel bad for the 25-year-old kids who, between OnlyFans and online gambling and having to have the newest $1,700 iPhone, it's tough to get that discipline to save, right? So when you're talking to the young men that you're mentoring, and I want to get to that in a minute, when you're talking to the young men that you mentor, how do you talk to them about money management and be like, hey, I know you're 22, you don't got a good jump shot, you're not going to go viral on social media. We got to have a 10-year plan to save enough money so you can buy a franchise, so you can be an entrepreneur. How are you coaching people on that? Because the amount of money you can spend will always exceed the amount of money you can earn.
And it's you just knocked it out of the park because you're right, Scott. I think they're so susceptible to all of this movement visually and everything they see on social media that again, it's only a certain type of kid that's going to actually be successful in this environment. That's just the reality of it. Because when I'm talking to these kids, and I just had my son and I took him out to one of our projects yesterday, and we were talking about finances. And I told him when I was his age and I was living under the comfort of my home, I would easily be inclined to save 50% of my paycheck. Like easy. You have no disposable, you have more than enough disposable income because you have no expenses, right? So any dollars that you make, you should be squirreling away. That's the most important thing that for these kids to understand, that if you really want to run your own show, financing is the key. And banks don't just give you money. They don't, this whole loan thing is a myth, people. If you go to a bank, I'm actually putting a deal together right now, that Marco's deal. And even me, people, they still basically want me to put up enough leverage and collateral to cover a $500,000 deal. So there you go. They're not just going to give me $500,000. They want me to put up an asset. They want me to show them my bank accounts to show that I'm liquid. They want basically leverage because banks don't just make loans. They don't just give money away without having leverage because they don't take risk. People get confused about that. Banks don't take risk. Okay. So if you want to do your own thing, you're going to need money. And the only way you're going to get money is if you either save it or borrow it. It's one of the two. So if you want to be smart about it and you really want to come out of the gate winning, you should save your own money so you won't have a loan that's going to be an expense that's going to be over your head that you're going to have to pay. It's going to take away from your bottom line. You should have some money in place to start your own business so you could come out the gate winning. And that's the thing about these kids. I focus on that. Like, your financial responsibility is important. You can't, like you said, why are you spending $1,700 on the phone? Next week, next month, a new one's going to come out. And then what? They want you to buy the new one. Like, material things don't last, but assets do last. But again, our education system definitely needs to be reformed because they're out there teaching these kids geometry and algebra that they'll never use in life, but they don't talk about financial literacy. Like, what? Yeah. That's just the fundamental. If you have a kid in your classroom, you should be teaching them about credit scores. You should be teaching them about some of the basic fundamentals in the world so when they come out, they can actually apply those skill sets. So that's what I do with these young people. I'm really focused on, listen, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, then you're going to have to make some serious sacrifices. You're not going to be able to spend every dollar you have. You should net at least 25% of everything that you make should go straight into the bank, period. You don't have any expenses. You live with your parents. That's like a low number.
I love it. In the dead center of your website, in big bold, it says empowering Black business excellence. Tell us why that's important to you.
Because on my way to where I'm going, I've always noticed that all of the other cultures are really supportive of the culture, right? So if you go to a gas station where we are, most of the time it's going to be Asians that run the gas station, somebody from Afghanistan or something. They own a bunch of them. Chinese, they have their own, they got Chinatown here, right? They buy it, they employ, they buy, they build, all within their culture. My culture has never been like that. They're starting to come together now, but Black America has been a culture that we spend more money money externally than anywhere else, and we don't really get it's not reciprocated, and we don't get the respect that we deserve for our dollars. So a lot of times with me, and don't get me wrong, people, I spend money on with all businesses because I'm about excellence, period. But I try my best to, I literally just backed into a pole with my Mercedes. I literally called my guy that owns an auto body shop, Lionel. He owns a body shop. I know him. I'm taking the car to him first. He African American, he Black. That's my dude. So I'm going to put the money in his pocket first. That's all I'm saying. And has nothing to do with race. It's not racism, or it's not. I'm just saying that I've noticed that all of the cultures, if I go to get a manicure, it's all my Asians in there. They run the show. They run every damn nail salon here in the DMV. So I'm just saying, can we just do something similar? That's all. But again, I have personal friends across every spectrum. So it's not a personal thing. I'm just saying that when it comes to business, if I want my people to move forward, they need to understand that we only move forward collectively, right? Like what they're doing against Target right now. That's brilliant, right? Y'all gonna dial back DEI on some bullshit? All right, then we can't spend our money there because we all know that DEI nonsense is this code. It's code because at the end of the day, minorities are minorities in this country for a reason. That means that we don't have access to everything else that the majority has access to. So don't sit there and talk about it's a level playing field when it's not. It's never going to be a level playing field. So yeah, you got to fight back, push back. You got to empower yourself economically, but you're not going to be able to do that if you just spend the money lily-willy any damn where people don't respect your dollar. You can't do that. So and again, in a capitalistic society, in this country, money rules. I don't care what anybody else has to say. If you don't have the cash, then you can't really say anything. You're not going to be able to move the ball.
I got a buddy, Nick Goucher, who's almost as passionate as you are of building home ownership in the Black community. Because he's like, the number one way you make wealth in America, top to bottom, is owning real estate. And I got to connect you two because you guys would have a lot of synergies. You're talking about Black business excellence, growing more business, more entrepreneurs in the Black community. He's talking about more Black home ownership. What do you think it is about the culture? Because you mentioned it, and of course there's outliers in every race and every demographic, but what do you think it is about the culture and like the African American community, which I'm not part of, that has this culture of spending more than you're growing and maybe doesn't have quite that same entrepreneurial flair that you're trying to inspire in these kids? Like, why is that symptomatic of the community that you're part of, that you mentioned and my buddy Nick has talked about?
Yeah, because Black culture, we've never had anything. So when a lot of your culture has been born into poverty, then when they see a nice car or they see their uncle wearing a nice jewelry or they see these things that are materialistic things, none of these people own shit. They live in apartment buildings, but they look nice. They flossing. Unfortunately, that's what you're a kid and you think that's success, right? No, nobody in my community at my age was talking about home ownership. I was fortunate to experience it, but I know a lot of kids that were in the hood and they basically apartments, that's the life that they lived. They lived that life. So when you're not aware of it and you don't understand what financial literacy looks like and you don't understand that, I can't tell you how many cars I've owned. I can't. My kid just asked me the other day. I lost the number of them, but they were all nice, but I don't have them anymore. I think the only time you really evolve, unfortunately, is if you achieve your goals and you do have financial prosperity, you realize how empty material things are. You know, it just doesn't make you happy. I like nice things. I'm just born this way. But do they make me? No, they don't define me. No matter what happens, again, remember I was open with all these ups and downs. I've been in so many situations, had it all, lost it, got it back, lost it. I don't really put any stock in material things. But unfortunately for my community, those things have value. Those things, my people will go out and spend all their money in the club, buy the nicest this, buy a Mercedes and live in an apartment again. But they'll do all that to floss and look good, but not understanding that they're just wasting their cash and those are disposable items and they just come and go. So that's the problem. So to answer your question directly, it's just a lack of education when it comes to financial progress. And that's exactly what I try to change by showing these young people what it looks like to do it, right? I try my best to go, yeah, I do love nice things, but it took me a long ass time to get here. There are no shortcuts. It's just true. There are no shortcuts to success. I started, like you said, me and your guy, we probably could talk all night because I started out with one little rental home in college, and I used to rent little rooms in there. The money from that house that we were all living in paid the mortgage, and it connected with me. I'm like, damn. So you could buy something, have other people rent it out. If you could cash flow it a little bit, I don't care if it's $500, that's money going in my pocket. They paying down the mortgage, and the property's appreciating. I'm like, that's a trifold fucking win. But that's because I did it at a young age. And then I had to go from bought one house, had to own that shit for 2-3 years before the bank would give me respect. And then I could buy another house using that one as leverage. But it took time to build up to actually now building a building. It didn't happen overnight. This is 20 years later, I'm building a building. So yes, it's all about, like I said, with me, you have to show them. Because that's the one environment we're in. With the IG and everything, you have to find a really good balance of how to show people, but without looking like you're showing off. But trying to really trying to go, listen, this is how you get there. This is how you do it. And the last thing that one reason why I'm always on this path is because when I was on my way up, it was a whole lot of gatekeepers. Nobody wanted to tell me shit. Nobody wanted to share basic information. They told me I was going to become instant competition and I was going to step on their toes. And I was like, if I ever make it, I'm giving my information away for free. And you should have never given me platforms because I'm giving it all away. Just call me. I'll let you know. You need my contact, I'll hook you up. Because I think it's something... it's sacrilegious to make it and then not even be able to try to give back. Want everybody else to be at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, just pull the ladder up behind you.
Pull it up behind. What? You don't get into heaven that way.
I want to know how you balance this all, right? Because I know developing a piece of commercial property can take up every sucking minute of your, it can be soul sucking to do that. Great reward at the end, but with the permitting and the this and the contractors, and then you're also doing executive coaching. Then you're jumping on podcasts like this. Thank you, by the way, to talk about your book. Then you're doing some free mentorship. Then I know you got this commercial company or commercial cleaning company that you're running. And there's, I think, two divergent paths. It's I'm either going to master this one thing and I'm all in and I'm only going to do that, or you're more like me. You got shiny object syndrome. So let's dabble over here. Let's apply this skill set that we learned over here to over here. Let's give back a little bit. Let's do some social media stuff. How are you balancing at a structural level, calendar, assistance? What are you doing to balance this all? Because I looked at your website. I'm like, this is the only other guy I've ever met that's successful and just as disjointed as me, that you got 6 different projects going on and they all seem to be thriving. So is it a good team, supportive wife and kids? What the hell's going on in your world?
Yeah, one is AI, because I take advantage of AI. So I really like my calendar assistance. 2, like you said, Scott, the whole shiny object thing is cool, but it can also be detrimental. So I try to teach young entrepreneurs that too, because I remember looking at a story about Dame Dash. He was huge with Jay-Z back in the day. He helped Jay-Z, basically. He owned the label that Jay-Z was on. They had differences and they parted ways. But Dame Dash was pretty successful at the moment in the 90s. He owned 5 or 6 other companies that we've never heard of. That's the problem, right? Sometimes you can get spread thin and that's the issue. So 2 years ago, I was like, after I did the Marcos deal, actually, I was like, I'm not bringing anything else on my plate. My conglomerate now is based on Marco's Pizza. It'll be Colonial Commercial Cleaning. It'll be my development company, Millennium Strategic Investments. And then my social media and my media brand is all about hustle and grow, what I'm doing now. But those are my 4 pillars. That's it. I'm not going to, now I got to focus.
You say that, he's in that 4 full-time jobs, man.
But now to answer your question, honestly, it's really about being incredibly organized. And remember what I opened with. My Millennium Strategic Investments, that's run by one of my best contractors. Lane Bryant is really good at just you could ask him anything and he knows it all the way down to the nail in the stud, right? My commercial cleaning company is now being run by Letty's Garcia. She's my field manager. She pretty much runs the show in that business. When I did Marco's deal, I'm putting it together. But again, obviously, I'm not putting on a uniform, but I have a really good GM in that space. Obviously, I love being in front of the camera, so I'm always going to be the head of my social media brands. But my point there was, as I outlined, I have really good people in place to handle it. I'm more from a strategic standpoint now, just figuring out what's next, right? So I'm always looking at these companies and figuring out how we're going to grow them to where they are. But like I started with, this is it, right? I'm not. People come to me all the time with new deals, new things to do. I'm like, nah, Like right now, I want to be known for the things I just mentioned. If I can make all of these things grow to where I want them to grow, I'll be just fine. I'll be resting in peace. So that's how you have to do it. Like now I'm in a place where I know exactly what I want this conglomerate to look like. Now it's all about execution, right? So I'm just really about execution. But yeah, I've always been incredibly organized behind the scenes anyway. I'm just that person. I love living by my calendar. I love being able to move my calendar around if I need to. But I definitely have assistants in place, and I have people that are really good managers in place to run these entities.
So I want to pick on that thread a little bit because you got these four kind of pillars of businesses, and it's like you got a mastermind, a right-hand man, a right-hand woman under each of them. Did you hire those people away by paying them a lot of bucks? Did you grow them internally? Because I think people hear stuff like this. And I tried to dabble in a bunch of different businesses and live up here in the clouds and do the strategic thing. And then I've made a bad hire, or my partner screwed me, or I trained this person up and then they left me and became a competitor. So how did you source these like high quality people that you trust to basically run one of your four babies?
Yeah, so if I go with my commercial cleaning company, it's really always been about me, my vibe, my personality with people. Remember, I told you the streets taught me that, right? I could really pick up on somebody that's really hungry, that's honest, hungry. They really want to learn. So Lettie's that runs this company that I'm sitting in, I had her at a young age. And she walked through my door. She was like, I really want a job, sir. Put her out in the field. She was excellent. Everybody liked her. So my point here is I groomed her, right? So everybody in my space, I normally personally groom, right? Because I look for personalities that I can actually truly relate to. And that's the key. It's all about loyalty, right? It's like people will stick with you forever if they know you're loyal. And when we went through the pandemic and everybody was losing their jobs, everybody was fired, none of my people were worried because they knew we would have to be going under for me to fire you. So I show my people the level of loyalty that I expect back. And I really do believe that they become family. Like every person that's in my organizations, I owe them tremendously. Like when I was looking at on my screen and looking at them putting on the side of my building, I saw all my Latinos out there. Fuck Trump. When I saw all my Latinos out there, I literally said, dude, without them, I wouldn't be here. I'm like, here they are, busting their ass in this messed up ass environment, but they come to work every day. When I first bought my franchise, it was the Maids Home Services and it was a residential cleaning company, all Latinos. But I've never seen a work ethic that hard. They never missed a damn day. They always up in there grinding, no problems from anybody. They were just like on it, like making me go, shit, my culture's bullshitting. like,
I gotta work my ass off more.
Yeah, like they motivated me because they never, no excuses, straight handling their business. And that's what I mean. They know, even though I speak only poquito Spanish, man, they know that I got them. You work for me, I got you. Because I really truly know that without you, there is no me. So to answer your point, it's really about relationship building. So all my companies are like that. Everybody that works for me, they know me. They know my family. Again, when I went to see that project, my guy Lane was there. He walked my son Bryce through the location, was walking them through, showing them things about studs and electrical and plumbing. And Bryce was all like wide-eyed. But that matters. And I called Lane and said, thanks for doing that for my kid. Like that relationship, when you build that kind of relationship, you don't have to worry about somebody getting bought off and going somewhere. And I have no problem with people growing. But your best A-plus talent, you got to pay them. Yeah. If my A-plus talent walks in my office and they go, Marcel, I love you, man. This money is okay, but dude up the street offered me 10% more. I'm paying you 15.
Yeah, I love it.
Like let's just shut that down early.
Yeah. Don't show your employees this video.
Exactly.
We're jumping all around, but I think it's just natural to your character. Talk to me through the executive coaching and the mentorship. Because like you said, a lot of people in all ethnicities and communities and whatnot, they make it, they pull the ladder up behind them. They find a way to enjoy their wealth without helping people create more of it. So tell us, like, why did you get into executive coaching and your mentorship? Because I know you do some pretty high ticket charged coaching, but you're not just trying to make money by being the social media influencer. You're like, dude, I'll take some people that can't afford it and I'll mentor them. So talk a little bit of that balance and like how you're coaching people and where people can find you and stuff.
Yeah. So my biggest thing was like, one, when I was in that 9-to-5 world, I was exposed to a lot of at-risk youth. And I really started to see how they are impacted by society because a lot of times their parents weren't there and they just had some really hard obstacles to try to overcome. So I always gravitated towards young people in general. I don't care what color you are, black, white, Latino, Spanish. We're all cool. And it's like my biggest focus is on the young people, right? So you can track me down anytime you want, and I'll jump on a call with you for free. All I need to know is your first name. That's a part of my mentorship program that's not organized. When I do have people that I do still have contacts with that are in those environments with at-risk youth, I always try to go out, and I don't like to just give speeches. I actually talk about my life, how I can help you. If you want access to me, again, it's 24/7. I'm 24/7 around that. When it comes to adults and actually mentoring them and coaching them, I'm really all about that adult that may have worked that 9 to 5 world and now they want to transition because they may be going into retirement, or that younger person that might be in his 20s or 30s that's, okay, where do I start? I'm totally down with that because I always feel like I told you about that gatekeeper part. Like, you have to grow this thing. Like, everybody's gonna take a shot at it that wants to be an entrepreneur, but they're only gonna be a few successful entrepreneurs. I love having my hand in that level of success, helping somebody else now achieve their thoughts and their dreams. To me, that's paying it forward, right? That's the part of my brand that I want to pay forward. I always feel like you're responsible for, if you're gifted and God gave you anything and you can afford to pay it forward, you should just do it in this society, specifically where we are now, with all this bullshit and negativity that's going on around us. Like, we need positive things to be happening so we can push through this. So yeah, I'm all about just trying to make sure that I get the information out there. If you're looking for me, marcelclarke.co. If you plug me into Google, just plug in Marcel Clarke, the entrepreneur. I take over the whole page. So all the stuff that I'm doing, it's out there. You can find me easily. It's not hard to find me. But yeah, marcelclarke.co, that website has all of my information, everything about me. But yeah, again, that whole wing of mentorship, coaching, that's me giving back. That's my people that put that charge bullshit up there, because I wasn't really even about that. I was really more about just meeting people that really want to be entrepreneurs and helping them out with resources. But I'm not really even trying to charge somebody for my time. If I had to fly somewhere, I want to cover those expenses. But yeah, I'm not in this to make money off of people. I'm blessed in that situation. I'm good.
It's crazy because today on my calendar, I've got an interview with you, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. I had a coaching call that I did for my coaching group at 9 o'clock that we just murdered. I actually survived for a couple rounds this morning at jiu-jitsu with a former UFC fighter. Felt good about that. Nice. And I got some other stuff on my calendar that feels good. But the thing I'm most proud of today is through a bunch of just social connections, I was able to connect a young man who's got 2 kids. He's had a couple scrapes with the law. He's really hurting for a job. I was able to connect him with another guy that's like, I don't give a shit what his background is. If he'll show up 7 a.m. in the morning and work his balls off, I'll give him a high-paying job because it's a pretty rough job cleaning pigeon shits off roof. And just being able to make that connection and help some 22-year-old kid that needs to feed his family, like, that felt better than all of it. I love making money. I love helping successful people make more money. But when you can help somebody who's like really struggling, that actually feels better than all of it.
Thank you. It's the greatest feeling in the world, specifically because, again, in life, you never know where you're going to end up and where you could be. And I think that the most honest thing internally that you could ever do is help somebody else out. And don't think that you don't want anything back. Just be like, yo, because somebody helped me out. You asked me that, right? Somebody literally gave me a shot. And maybe if that person didn't give me a shot, I could be somewhere else. So that's the best thing about life right there. When you can use your connections and the people that you know, and you can bail that kid out. You probably changed his life, Scott. And maybe you'll never find out what happened to him. But that's that positive energy you put out there that's going to always pay dividends.
Yeah. So do you mind if we get a little controversial? I ask you some political stuff a little bit.
I'm an open book.
You open the door.
You can tell already.
All right, cool. So I think there's 2 ends of the spectrum right now, and we'll just call it like left and right because that's easier. But I'm not really talking about like Republicans, capital R, and Democrats, capital D. But it's on one side of the equation, you have, no, pull yourself by your bootstraps. You're not a victim of your circumstance. You're just complaining, blah, 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 blah. And then on the far other side, we have, if you can't see all the problems and call yourself a racist, then maybe you're just like a white supremacist in disguise. And I'm like, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. So like, how do you balance that where growing up how you grew up, you and the kids that you mentor that are at risk, you see the reality of, hey man, grow up in the hood in an apartment where you're just, the only thing you're exposed to be able to make money is slinging drugs. And then understand that, yeah, you got to do the work if you're going to get yourself out of that problem. Like, how do you balance that when you're having those conversations? I don't even care, fuck Trump, fuck Joe Biden, whatever. But when you're having those conversations, I feel like so many of those conversations go to the extreme. It's like two things can be true at the same time. You can absolutely be dealt a shit hand in life, and you got to do the work to get out of that shit. So how are you talking to especially young men who you're mentoring who's like, yeah, man, let's be real. There's some institutional racism. The deck was stacked against you. You weren't born with the same opportunities, and the work has to be done. Like, how are you having those conversations so you're not way out here on the fringes? Because I think those positive conversations in the middle is really missing from our public discourse, from politics, from all of it.
Totally missing. And to piggyback on where you were going with this, though, my buddy Mark Gilbert, who's a staunch Republican, says that same old pull yourself up by your bullshit straps. He's been saying that for 20 years. And as soon as the damn pandemic hit, he was the first person up in there getting PPP. What? First person in line. Talking all that shit all these years, government, la la, good, yeah. And then, like you said, I got the other side where these kids are like, the man is trying to hold me down. The man. And I'm like you said, I always find the middle. I'm like, listen, these variables are out here. You know, that's not even that debate, right? But the question is, who are you going to be? Like, what are you going to do to move the ball? What are you going to do personally? Let's not think about anybody else. Let's not worry about anything else. All the noise that's around us is around. All of us see and hear this noise. What are you going to do to move the ball every single day? And if you think you're big enough to judge somebody, are you going to judge somebody on their character and their actions, or what you heard about somebody? That's the question. Find your lane and get your focus on, because all these things are just trying to distract you. And as long as you have a crutch or you want to use this as your reason, then you're going to find yourself in that same pit. But like, when you take responsibility for you and don't worry about everybody else, everybody has to look, man. Again, in the real world, I'm talking to a kid right now. In the real world, adults don't give a fuck about you because they got their own problems. So, like, you got a problem and you run around, I got a problem. Everybody else got problems too. So they'll listen to you, but they're not going to help you solve your problem. So the only person that solves your problem is you. So that's me, right? I'm more about empowerment, individual empowerment, one person at a time. Because that's what I took away from those environments with these organizations that are trying to help these kids. I'm like, yeah, you know what? This organization might have helped 3 kids, but there are 1,000 more organizations across the country, and collectively, we are helping hundreds of thousands of kids. So don't get caught up in your little one day where you're like, damn, am I making a difference? You're damn right you're making a difference. You just help one person because somebody else out there helping somebody. Like, you can get there and we can help a lot of people. We're not going to be able to save the damn world, but we moved it in the right direction when you really just start focusing on one person at a time. That's me, Scott. I'm just like, one person at a time. Stay in your lane. You are entitled to believe whatever the hell you want to believe, but do your research. Don't just go and be in an echo chamber. Go do your own things. Like you said, this country now is so divided when it comes to politics. That shit shouldn't even be on the table anymore. Like, you believe you rolling with Trump after 8 years or 5 years now? This last 6 months feel like dog years. If you want to roll with Trump, we all know who Trump is. Like, he's demonstrated his consistency time and time again. So if you're a Trumpster, you a Trumpster. That's your business. My point there is, I'm not all caught up in that. Because again, my buddy Mark is in that lane, but we still friends. Like, he was one of my mentors early on, and when I was buying businesses, he was the one that helped me out one of the most. White guy, right? Like, in my culture, a lot of white people have helped me more than a lot of black people. I can be honest with that, right? So I'm not judging Mark. I'm like, Mark, that's your belief. We be having our little debates. I'm like, I get it. Something happened to you, and that's the way you feel. And you like, everybody need to get up on their own fucking bootstraps. All right, bro. All right, I'm not going to debate with you about that anymore. But yeah, Scott, I try to keep it, like you said, you got to stay away from the fringes because you'll never convince those people. No. That's impossible. Like, they've chosen their sides. It is what it is. But that individual empowerment lane where you're like, listen, what are we doing right now? Or what kind of grades we getting in school? Were you getting your grades? Like, what's next? Like, you got a side hustle? What's your side hustle? Like, what do you like to do? What are you getting into every day? What are we doing every single day? Because you focusing on that every single day, you're going to look back and you'll be like, damn, I've come a long way. That's how I approach it.
I love it, man. One, that's the way to end the podcast. Two, if I ask you another question, we'll talk for 3 more hours. But again, marcelclarke.co. And man, I can't wait to dig into the rest of your book, Hiding in Plain Sight. Is there any question I forgot to ask you about your book or a story in there you want to tell that'll drive some people to be like, yeah, man, let's make some changes, pick up the book, stay in touch with you on social media? What did I forget to ask you?
We knocked a lot out, and I'm gonna tell you guys, I know a lot of authors will tell you whatever, man, but I promise you guys, it's an excellent read. And I put it out there on all mediums, right? Ebooks, regular books, audio book, it's everywhere. Whatever your thing is, you'll find it. And I promise you, not only will it inspire you to be a great person, but also you'll have that drive. If that drive is in you, this book is gonna touch you, and it's gonna let you know that it's never over. When that fat lady sings, I put my headphones on. I'm still going. You got it? Like, it don't quit. Pick that book up. I promise you will not be disappointed.
I got 2 questions I always end every podcast with. This will come out in about middle of June 2025. Question number 1 is, what is Marcel personally looking most forward to the second half of the year? And then what's your favorite movie and why? Because I'm a movie junkie. I feel like I can learn a lot about people from their favorite movies. So favorite movie and why, and take this time to brag a little bit. What are you looking forward to the second half of the year?
Oh, I'm looking forward to football. Well, my Cowboys got to come on, man, Jerry.
You're a Cowboys fan. It's been a rough 25 years, man.
Dude, come on, Jerry. Let's do something, man. But anyway, always looking forward to the fall. That's family time, Christmas, just the season of beautiful things, man. I'm just looking forward to watching this year close out. Supposed to have some good trips on my plate, so that should be good. Favorite movie? Shawshank Redemption. All day long, man. If you haven't not seen that movie out there, please go see Shawshank Redemption. It's a classic, man. Again, it's one of those situations where it's more about how do you deal with your situation at hand. And if you can deal with it in a positive way, you can have a positive outcome. Yeah, all day long.
I love it, man. Marcel, thanks for being on. I'll hit you up when everything comes out, and I think we're going to talk again. I'm going to introduce you to Nick. You guys are going to have some synergies to do something awesome together.
I appreciate it, Scott, man. Great show.
Thanks, man. Talk soon.